Savage Dragon 105 from November of 2002. This is the first cover in 20 issues to not feature some blurb up top or a word balloon or some other gimmick. Just a silent image, if you will. Someone has turned Dragon's hamburger into a donut. And I'll have more on this cover later, but I believe Larson colored this one himself, something he's been doing recently. On to the credits: Erik Larsen, writer-artist; Chris Eliopoulos, letterer; Ruben Rude, colorist; and Josh Eckhorn claims he was just doing an impression of Pete Townsend. Every now and then one of these throwaway Josh Eckhorn jokes will send me down some horrible rabbit hole, and this is certainly one of them, but I'll mention it. So I think this is just like a silly jerk-off joke. Like, he didn't catch me masturbating. I was doing the windmill guitar like Pete Townsend famously does. Well, coincidentally, Pete Townsend is also known for something else that occurred literally as this comic was hitting shelves. January of 2003, Townsend was arrested for some pretty heinous allegations, so you can look it up. Anyway, I doubt Larson was making light of that, but it's a hell of a coincidence. So moving on to Candyman. And because I'm a coward, I will not say that 5 times. Let's just read the captions down here. Last month, our ever humble hero got married and went on his honeymoon. And with that excitement behind him, he's gotten back to a peaceful rut of slugging it out with malevolent menaces hell-bent on taking over the world and marauding monsters out to destroy it. It's always something. And this time it's the Candyman, a villain with the mocha touch, turning anything he touches into chocolate. So Dragon gets a phone call that the downtown area has been turned into delicious milk chocolate. The buildings, the cars, the roads, and the people have all been turned into chocolate by the Candyman. And this sounds too good to pass up for Dragon's daughter, Angel. So she hides in the back of the flying car while Dragon goes on this investigation. And when he finds out, man, he's pissed. And he tells her to stay in the car and don't eat anything. He says it may not stay chocolate forever, and you don't want like a stomach full of concrete. So Dragon himself seems tempted to eat this license plate. And then Angel finds a loophole and starts scarfing down broccoli from a street side grocer. So no harm in eating her vegetables there. But while Dragon is distracted, the villain sneaks up behind him and turns him into chocolate. And then Candyman chases Angel down the chocolate streets into a dead-end chocolate alleyway. And it appears that she is doomed. But then Dragon takes him out with just one punch. Apparently his healing ability quickly changed him back to normal. So Candyman is arrested and put in a power dampening cell so he can't escape. Oh shit, was that 5 times I said that? Fuck. Ah! Hey, that wasn't so bad. R.I.P. Tony Todd. Anyway, this adventure with Dragon, it ends with Dragon in the hospital to remove the license plate from his stomach. Evidently, he's a chocoholic, just like Angel. And then back at the house, Mr. Glum continues his efforts to kill the dragon and take over the world. And then finally, Dragon realizes that Mr. Glum is not a talking toy doll, but an intelligent creature. And something drastic may have to be done about him, which makes Mr. Glum wet his pants. And again, each of these rows kind of reads like a 3-panel comic strip with a punchline at the end of each one. We got a second story over here by the same creative team, Those Who Would Destroy Us. Another exciting adventure from the erratic Erik Larsen, adeptly aided by the chivalrous Chris Eliopoulos and riotous Ruben Rude. Ugh, I got Larsen channeling his inner Stan Lee there, which is appropriate for this story. So Dragon and Smasher fight this gigantic orange beast, Baracus, from Dimension X. And then Dragon is able to send the monster back from whence he came, booting him through the portal to Dimension X. And then it's hinted that Mr. Glum himself released this creature into their home, but Dragon is oblivious. Anyways, after the action dies down, there's a phone call from Marvy Comics. They're interested in meeting Dragon and discussing a comic book based on his adventures. And then the jokes just start to get super meta as Jennifer here, with her derriere and thigh gap in prominent display here, she's disgusted by modern comics, saying that there's nothing but TNA with cheesecake shots emphasizing the shapely body parts of some overly developed bimbo. Larson with his tongue firmly in his cheek there. So then we go to meet the Marvy comic guys. We're meeting them at the Rock House Diner, a restaurant owned and operated by Dragon's pals, the Underground Freaks. You got Rock, Widow, Beast Boy, and they get down to business, talking logistics with the Marvy Comics guys. Dragon wants to, have the comic start with like current events, but the Marvy guys, they want to go back to when Dragon was found in the burning field. And Angel's main concern is that that they don't draw her too goofy looking, which is pretty hilarious. So the talks continue. Dragon worries that his adventures aren't appropriate reading for children. And then he's informed that, kids don't read comics anymore. Who can afford them? Kids watch cartoons or play video games. We produce mature and sophisticated stories aimed at the dwindling audience of basement-dwelling single males in their 20s that enjoy reading adolescent power fantasies featuring people fighting in their underwear with towels tied around their necks. So fanatics are catching strays from their favorite comic here, man. What a world. Larson using the dialogue here to kind of vent his frustrations with the modern comics industry of the time, maybe still resonating today. So it continues because Dragon has some thoughts about comics. He says, you know what might help? How about a writer and artist stick around on a comic for more 3 or 4 issues? Is it too much to ask for a team of creators to stay on a project for more than a few months? Anyway, they talk shop and the food arrives. But before Dragon can take a bite of his burger, a hole is blasted right in it, which directly ties to the image on the cover there. So Dragon is under attack by Firepower. That's the bad guy named Firepower. You may remember him from, he was back in issue 18. He was a would-be assassin that was easily killed by Overlord. Well, he's alive and well in this world, but he does not fare much better. The staff of the diner, they soften this dude up with some shots, including some webbing from the Widow's backside there. And then Dragon and Smasher finish him off, plant his head into the floor, and then this pitch meeting is over. Family drives back to the house, discussing the offer as they open the front door to discover Mr. Glum has constructed a death ray pointed directly at the Dragon. But fortunately, he did not have time to complete the weapon, so no harm, no foul. And it's just kind of played for comedy here, but obviously Dragon will have to keep an eye on Angel's diminutive red friend here. But that's it for the main storyline. This page over here is actually an ad for this very issue of Savage Dragon. Some funny dialogue in here. Basically, this ad man trying to influence this irate fanboy who says, I hate modern comics. I'm going to quit buying them and move out of the basement and discover girls. Not so fast, says the ad man. Check out these cool villains and raucous humor, not to mention dynamite chicks with gravity-defying cans. And that's enough to convince this geek to become a regular reader. So, the end. And this ad features coloring by Brett Evans and includes the cover for this very issue, although there's some differences. There's a bluish-purple background on the cover, and this one looks gray. And then there's like a blurb hidden behind these fingers here. Maybe America's Greatest Comic Magazine, but that's not on the actual cover. So I don't know when that was changed, but it's barely worth mentioning. So moving on, there's a pinup here by Chris Bruner, followed by The Continuing Adventures of Dragon Boy by Brent Engstrom. Another 6-page story featuring an amalgam of Monkey Boy and Savage Dragon. The tiny hero is defeated by the bad guys, and then they separate the two, sending Dragon back to his own world. But he has a vestigial tail there. Cool. That's followed up by Comic Bits by Chris Giarusso. The G-Man gets a new costume, but everybody thinks it sucks. Then there's a 1-page Fanatics. Very short for our letters page. Nothing too noteworthy. Just reaction to issue 103. We got an ad for Fire Breather number 3 on the back cover. He'll be making a cameo in a few issues. But next, it's the Christmas issue. 106. Adios.